Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And this time we're going to be talking about what? Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This time we're going to be talking about one of the biggest shows, at least of the summer season, I guess. Yeah. Definitely beating Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was honestly a surprise for me. So let's get into it. So in order for this to be a proper Invincible review, I have to talk about my reaction to the first episode. Going through the whole episode, with Mark learning how to get his powers, his dad is a super strong, or not super strong, he's just, I guess the number one hero, if we want to go with like my hero terms. That whole, like, he's in high school, he's like protecting pretty girl, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff was very stereotypical, and it was immediately a turn off for me. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna probably watch 2 or 3 episodes of this, and if it doesn't pick up from there, probably just gonna drop it. Don't know why people are applauding the show so much. Then we get to the post-credit scene, and I'm like, oh. So oh, spoilers, by the way. Spoilers. This is going to be a spoiler review. Omni-Man completely wrecks the whole Guardians of the Globe. I was not expecting that at all, especially the amount of blood and gore that they showed. Like, it was littered all throughout the first episode, but it was not to that magnitude. Omni-Man just went crazy and brutally killed all, Immortal, Aquaman clone, War Woman, Red Flash, Green Lantern clone, Martian Manhunter clone. All 6 of them. Obliterated them. After that, I'm like, oh, okay. This show is not what I was thinking it was going to be. Let me continue to keep watching. So after that, we kind of have this progression of Mark's story as he's trying to become a superhero. His dad is teaching him the ropes. And there's also, I don't even want to say it's a side story, because it was honestly not only the thread that carried throughout the whole season, but the most interesting part of the show for me was the whole investigation into the murder of the Guardians in the Globe and how Omni-Man had a part in it, because Omni-Man was the only survivor. So that part to me was super interesting. I'm like, okay, so we know Omni-Man did it. He's not telling anybody. Why did he do it though? So that part was really interesting to me. So as the show keeps going on, we see that Mark is trying to become a superhero. He like full-fledged throws himself into it. I don't know why he did that. Considering, almost every fight that he participates in this season, he gets, I would say, 6 times out of 10 he wins, but almost all the time, whether he wins or loses, he's gonna get beat up in some fashion. Whether it's like, black eye, bloody lip, or just like immediately goes to the hospital, which 2 major incidents happens with that. But I think that's like one of my gripes with the show. Which I feel like that's so uncommon for people to say that, because I always hear nobody has any complaints about Invincible at all. But that's one of my gripes with the show, and maybe it's in the comics as well. It seems like Omni-Man was so focused on teaching him how to fly, he like doesn't really teach him how to fight. Like, we do see him talking about leverage a little bit. So there was at least a discussion there. But from what we see from Mark, he clearly does not know what he's doing. Even towards the end, when he's like, I feel like he's got some good things going for him, but he's not really thinking strategically when he fights. And that's the thing that I was kind of missing from him. So, but once again, it is season 1, so I'm not going to blame them for that at all. I feel like it's good to start a character with like some base skills, or maybe even below base, and build them up, especially if he's going to be kind of like the hero that usurps Omni-Man in a way. But yeah, Mark gets beat up a lot. which does ground the show, but at the same time, I do want to see him like, I don't want to fear for Mark more than I fear for the bad guys in this show. And I do most of the time. I think the most overpowered person in Invincible, at least outside of Omni-Man, is probably Adam Eve. Like, after watching the show twice to see the extent of all of her powers, I'm like, what the frick? I'm like, I don't even know if she's really like showing everything that she can do, because it seems like she has some different ability every time I see her. But if she was able to like manifest like a greater power and dig in like deeper and like really make it grow, she could take over the world if she wanted to. That's how I feel though. But yeah, let's see. Episode 2, we kind of see the training. Episode 3 is when I think he starts interacting with Amber. Let me see. Yes. Okay. So in episode 3, we're talking to Amber on the study date. I know how people feel about Amber, and we will talk about that once I get to the right episode. But, you know, starting off, I thought Amber was an okay character. Like, I would probably give her a 5 or a 6 out of 10 at that moment in time. Just because, you know, it was funny. She made a joke about being super forward with Mark, and I do think she was being super forward with Mark. But I also think it's refreshing to see, like, a woman take charge for once, because I feel like there's 2 types of women in Hollywood, unfortunately. There's the type that just let everybody else tell them what to do, and then there's the type that take charge to the point where everybody else doesn't like them. There's such a wider range between, but we don't ever see that. So I feel like Amber, although she was kind of taking charge at the beginning, I think it slowly becomes more of like a regular kind of relationship that you would see in real life. So that was cool to see. And what else? Oh, the fact that she gave him another chance too. I'm like, you know, that was your choice. So go ahead. But let's see. Moving on to EP4. In EP4, episode 4, Omni-Man, I think he recovers from getting out of the hospital, and then Cecil, who I like Cecil, but at the same time I'm like, damn, Cecil, like, can you not give somebody 2 seconds to breathe? Like, literally after he gets out of the hospital, maybe like a couple weeks, I think one of the characters said, he shows up, he's like, yeah, I need you to take these astronauts, like protect them on Mars or whatever. So then Mark goes instead, and then we have a like interesting little developing side story there that I really doesn't feel like fully gets developed, which is unfortunate. Because that's another one of my criticisms for the show is, and once again, I'm not holding it like super hard against the show, because it's confirmed there's going to be a season 2 and 3 already. So, you know, there's more room to develop all these different stories and characters. But for this season in particular, I feel like it was super straightforward, which is, I don't know. I just like things that are multi-layered and have like multiple little threads that tie together at the end. And I feel like the Omni-Man thing that was going throughout, that was a solid string. Mark training and trying to learn his powers and learning what it means to actually be a real hero, that was a string that went all throughout. But this Martian thing, meeting the Martians and him talking with the king of the Martians, I think, the leader or whatever, and learning about these parasites that can take over Mars and eventually like take over the universe, maybe. That kind of just stays within that episode. And we see that one of the astronauts gets infected with that parasite, so I wish they would have developed that idea a little bit more throughout the series, or at least had little nods. I would have accepted that versus just, oh, this is just going to be a 1 episode thing. Of course, we know that we see it at the end of the series that they flash back to all these different moments that happened, but it doesn't really go throughout. And that reminds me of the other side story, which I was really interested in, which they did kind of develop it over the course of maybe 2 episodes. Oh, okay. Actually, that's in the next episode, so perfect segue. So Mark helping out Titan, trying to take care of Machine Head, who is kind of like the mob boss of that, almost the entire city. I'm not sure to what extent his power reaches, but Titan wanted to take out Machine Head because he had a debt with him to help him like take care of his little girl who was sick. And afterwards, Machine Head's like, "Oh no, I can't let you go. You're way too useful. You need to stay working for me. Like, I know where your family lives. I could take them out at any time." Basically, like blackmailing him. So Titan's like, "Nah, I'm not dealing with that. I'm gonna call it Invincible, and we're gonna try and take you guys down." Of course, Mark gets beat up. That's the first time I believe he goes to the hospital, and it's looking like, not like he actually, yeah, like he might not make it, honestly. Like I thought he was gonna make it, but at the same time I was like, what if he doesn't? But that side story was really interesting to me, especially because I think it's at the end of the episode, or either after the end credits scene, we see that Titan actually becomes the boss himself. Either that, or he was actually the boss working with the other dude that Machine Head had like as his secretary or whatever. So that was an interesting little side story. But once again, it was contained into like either that one episode or those 2 episodes that Titan was involved in. But the thing here with this episode as well is that Mark had promised Amber that he would go help her with the soup kitchen, and it was important to her. And of course, he misses that. I think he has he made a date with Amber and her mother as well, but I'm not sure when that happens, what episode, and I don't even know if it's going to be on the Wikipedia summary thing. But you know, he wasn't in good standings because he missed the thing with the soup kitchen because he got beat up, went to the hospital, and then the thing with dinner, he was just like 2 hours late, so that one he had no excuse for. But at this point, you know, Amber was kind of getting fed up with him, and I can't see like why she wouldn't be upset with him, you know. She doesn't know he's a superhero at that point. I don't believe. And you know, he was just being a bad boyfriend, being like late all the time. I don't know how their communication was, but clearly something was going wrong there. So, you know, no fault to Amber quite yet. So after Mark recovers and returns back from the hospital, he's talking to William, and William's like, "I'm going to go to upstate U to go see, what was his boy's name? I forget." So William had a crush on a boy. Let's call him Brad, just for the sake of simplicity. And William wants to go see Brad. So he's like, Mark's like, "Oh, cool. Can I come with you?" He's like, "Yeah, I guess." He's like, "Can I bring Amber?" And he's like, "What the frick, dude?" And he's like, "Listen, I just need to do something with her to try and like, you know, get in a better standing, and like, it could be like a date thing and test out our future, all that kind of stuff." So they go to upstate U, and these are where all the problems kind of start with Mark and Amber, and honestly with Mark and William too. So we know that the evil scientist dude is like kidnapping male students from the school and like chopping off different parts of them and like mechanizing them into weapons. And one of the weapons escapes, attacks the campus, and Mark has to take care of it. So of course Mark can't attack him as Mark. He has to leave and put on his costume and be invincible. So he's taking care of it. And after the mechanized guy who's attacking the campus kills himself, Mark comes back. He's like, "Oh yeah, I want to go get the police," whatever, you know, try to do that stereotypical superhero cover thing. And what was interesting was, instead of it being like, "Oh, okay, that's where you were. I'm so glad you were safe, Mark," it was actually it was kind of a realistic thing where Amber was like, "Where were you? Like, everybody was like needed help and you just disappeared." He's like, "No, I wanted to go." She's like, "No, I don't want to hear it." And once again, I do not blame Amber for that as well. So after that, Amber goes to this party, and low-key, I was not happy with her about this, though. She's, like, flirting with this other guy, and I don't really know what her intentions were, but it was still kind of like, you literally just broke up with someone. If not, you're in a really shaky relationship. I don't think you should be doing this with anybody else, but that's what she chose to do. Mark tries to go after her, sees that, and he's like, okay, well, what's done is done. And then he tries to go help William, who finds out that Brad went missing. Turns out evil scientist dude kidnapped Brad. So he goes to solve that situation. I think it's in the next episode that William kind of confronts Mark about that. Like, if you had responded to me sooner when I called you, we might have could have saved Brad. He might not have turned out this way because he got mechanized as well. And Mark's like, like I was dealing with a lot of stuff. I was going after Amber. I was trying to help you, like blah, blah, blah. Which not really a good excuse in my opinion, but I think William's like pretty, he forgives him. Because, he understands, he figures out that he's invincible after the first attack. So he kind of gets it a little bit. But at the end of this episode, which is episode 6, we also see that Debbie, who had been doing kind of an investigation of her own throughout the whole series, she's finally able to confirm that it was Omni-Man, or Nolan, her husband, who had attacked the Guardians of the Globe. So not handling that super well, and she ends up confronting him about it, and he's like, I didn't do it. Like, come on, we can talk about this when you're not drunk, because she had been drinking all night. So that was like, I thought that was interesting that she actually confronted him in the first place. Would I have done the same thing? I don't know. That's scary, because like, at that point, I would be questioning, like, do I really know this person? Like, if he doesn't actually love me or care about me, he could just, like, kill me. He could kill my son. Like, I don't know. So it was interesting that Debbie confronted him. But another side story, actually, that I forgot to mention, which I am mentioning, I think there's 3 in total that kind of go throughout the series. The one with, or I guess Omni-Man's investigation is one, and thing I'm about to say with Rudy is another one, or Robot. Starts out Robot, goes on, becomes Rudy, and then Adam Eve kind of has a thing, but kind of doesn't have a thing at the same time. I don't know. It's weird. I'll explain later. But the side story with Robot was actually pretty interesting, where Robot, towards like the 4th episode, or maybe even 5th, I'm not sure, he wants to like get a human body, and I'm not 100% sure why that is. Like, everybody's theory for the moment is that he wanted to get a human body so that way he could be with Monster Girl, who is a 24-25-year-old person, which I'll talk about in a second, who keeps getting younger as she uses her powers. So Robot took some DNA from a guy that she thought she was interested in, and made a younger clone of him so that he could inhabit that body. That whole thing is kind of interesting, and I'm curious to see how that's going to work out, whether Monster Girl is going to receive him well. Right now, it seems like she is, but is it going to end up being a romantic thing like I think Robot wants? I don't know. But the thing with Monster Girl, which I caught the second time around when I was watching the series, was that the first time she said her age, she said she was 24. Then the second time she said her age, when somebody was talking about drinking, and she's like, oh, you're a little girl, you can't drink. She's like, I'm 25. I'm like, did she have a birthday in between, like, the time that she was talking about the first time she had a birthday and now? Or is she lying about her age and she's actually a little girl? Or was that a writing mistake? Like, I don't know. That was kind of interesting. I don't know if that's really something to focus on, but that was something random that I happened to stumble upon. But speaking of kind of like the whole Rudy situation and Amber dumping Mark, that's what happens in episode 7. So when Amber dumps Mark, which I can completely understand why she was doing it, up until the point when Mark shows her like, hey, I'm invincible. This is why I'm late all the time or why I can't show up to some things. And then she says, oh, I know. I've known for weeks now. I'm like, huh? I'm like, you've known for weeks and you asked him why he wasn't at that first attack at Upstate. You don't understand like why he gets beat up and stuff all the time. Or I guess she does, but like, I don't know. That's just so weird to me. Like, if I had a boyfriend who was a superpower or superhero, and I didn't know, and he's like not treating me well, not showing up to stuff that I was like, this is important, I need you to show up to this, and he doesn't show up, I'm gonna be like, like, it's just time to break up, this person, it's not working out. But then I find out he's a superhero, like that changes some things. But the fact that it didn't change anything for Amber, I'm a little confused about. I'm like, if you really cared about this person, you would kind of take that into consideration. Like, he's doing what's assumed to be the best that he can at the moment. So if you still wanted to break up with him, it was fine. Just because, even if you're a superhero, I guess she might have just thought, the way that you're treating me is just not cool. But the reason, at least what everybody's interpreting is the main reason that she broke up with him, is because she thought that he was treating her like she was unimportant, and that's why he couldn't tell her. I'm like, huh? Like, it's a secret identity. He's not telling you. One of the biggest reasons why he's not telling you is to protect you. Like, he can't just tell anybody that because, even if they weren't going to tell, now they're in danger because they know that, like, you're a superhero, and that could possibly, people can know you're connected and all that crap. I don't know. That was weird. That was that was a very odd choice. And then it makes me angry with what happens in the next episode. But let me check my recap and see. Okay, we do have a couple more things to talk about. So after that, Mark talks to Adam Eve, and Adam Eve's like, well, I don't blame her. And I don't necessarily blame her either. But her main reasoning, I don't like. But then we see the Omni-Man, after he's been found out, Mark's mother is approached by Cecil's security, who was like hiding in the house, invisible, all that stuff, and had surveillance on the house. So now they've confirmed it. So now they're at the base and they're watching Omni-Man, and they're trying to stop him from getting to Mark. Because like, if he can get to Mark, then there's no way we can stop the both of them. So they sent out this big monster that Omni-Man fought in like the second episode, I think. It's one of the earlier episodes that he had a lot of trouble with, and I was actually able to hurt him. So Eve and Mark are talking about the whole situation, and they're flying, and then I think they just happened to get close enough to see that Omni-Man is in trouble, and that's when the Mauler twins, which is another little side story, which I feel like needed a little bit more, I don't know. There's a lot of little threads. I will admit, there are a lot of little threads, but these side stories that were more engaging to me didn't get as much love as I wanted, especially the Titan thing. I think the Titan thing is the biggest thing. The Martians thing, I wasn't so big on. The Mauler twins story was interesting, though, and Rudy's story was interesting. But I feel like they're more in line with the main story, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. Maybe I'm confused myself on this. I kind of am, but moving on from that. Mauler twins, they have, like, technology so they're able to clone themselves or keep cloning themselves. And one of the twins actually dies in, like, a really brutal fashion that I wasn't expecting earlier on, so he makes another one. But he's also able to, one, help Rudy with the cloning thing, and they were able to bring back Immortal, which I don't know what their goal was for that. I guess they wanted like a like super beefy dude that they could control, but that didn't end up working out at all. So Immortal is brought back to life, and he's like, "Oh, Omni-Man! I need to get Omni-Man!" So then he goes, fights Omni-Man, and dies again. And Mark sees it, and Mark's like, "Huh?" So, yeah, lots of stuff happened episode 7. That was very action-packed and intense. And then, moving on to episode 8, Omni-Man tries to explain to him the whole Viltrumite heritage thing, which I feel like it was supposed to be like the big mystery of the season that was super easy to figure out, unfortunately for me, I think. Like very early on when they were talking about like being Viltrumite, whatever, I'm like, oh, okay, so he's not from Earth. That could be something that ties in. And then there is a plot line where they're fighting this alien group, and he goes to the aliens planet, and he's like, Earth is not yours to conquer. And I think it was that specific line, actually, where I was like, huh, that's interesting. You say that. So, and then I think he was also talking with Mark about how they send out all the Viltrumite to different plants and stuff to protect them and like help them. And I'm like, oh, okay, I think that the Viltrumite are sending their people out to go conquer these planets, actually, not help these planets. And then turns out I was right. So I don't know. I think it was this plus like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier mystery thing that was like really easy to figure out. This one was better though. I will say I wasn't super disappointed with this one. I was just like, I was right. Versus being like, okay, we know who it is. It's Sharon. But yeah, that he tells Mark, we're not actually helping people. We're actually conquering planets, and I want you to conquer with me. And Mark's like, no, I don't want to do that. So then they have this huge battle that wasn't like the craziest thing I've seen. In comparison to what happens later, it was not the craziest thing I've seen. But they really, like, Omni-Man's really beating Mark up. And I'm like, damn, he's beating Mark up. And he like punches him into Mount that happens. That's the last thing that happens. He punches him into the city and is causing all this wreckage. And then Mark's trying to save people, but he can't because he doesn't have the strength to, or I don't really know what's happening with that. But I think he was like, it wasn't strong enough to hold the building up. But then he takes him down to the subway, and then the whole like subway scene happens. And that was interesting to me on 2 different levels. One, I was like, Mark, why are you swinging your arms around? You're probably killing more people than you're helping at this point. But that was crazy that Omni-Man did that. And then the second thing is the way that the internet was like, yeah, oh my God, I love that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is kind of crazy. I don't know if I would say I like this on a public forum, that's really brutal, terrible, awful stuff that was happening. Like, I understand the emotion of it was awesome, just like the way that impacted Mark, but actually seeing all those people die, that was terrible. That was terrifying. But yeah, that was a super impactful scene in the season. And then we have I'm probably gonna be skipping around here, but towards the end of the battle, Omni-Man punches him into like Mount Everest or some mountain, and it's like beating him up. And then the freaking meme, think Mark, think about this. Only taking me another 7 years to grow a kid like you. And I'm like, oh, dang, that hurts. And then we see Omni-Man have a flashback of Mark back when he was playing, like Little League T-ball, whatever. Or not T-ball, softball. And we see how he, like, the Grinch's heart grew 3 times size that day. Like he grew a connection with Mark, and he was able to like adopt some of these like human attributes of like, feeling something for your children and being proud of them and like feeling what they're feeling and all that kind of stuff. So that is what ultimately stopped him from killing Mark, and he ends up flying off to who knows where. So they end up taking Mark to the hospital again after Mark recovers. He has a talk with Cecil about, like, you're gonna have to replace Omni-Man. I'm like, give this man a second to breathe. My goodness. But Mark ends up getting discharged, so him and his mom go home. Amber shows up and kisses him, and Mark's just like, whoa. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Amber needs higher standards. You need higher standards. Why is Amber just jumping into your arms? Like, I understand you just died. Hug, justified. Kissed, not justified. Mark, why are you accepting a kiss from this woman who clearly does not understand your life, does not understand your feelings for this person, and you're just like accepting them back in? Just like, what is up with that? That was upsetting to me on both fronts. But William shows up, and Adam Eve. I keep calling her Adam Eve, like her whole government superhero name. But Eve ends up showing up as well. And they're like, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this whole situation. And then Mark gets sent off to the moon to go talk to one of the, like, universe protector people, alien man thingies. And he's telling him about all this stuff that happened, because he initially shows up to be like, hey, there's a Viltrumite on your planet. And Mark's like, oh, I know. And then they talk about it, and he's like, well, what are you going to do now? And then that's when we see the flashes of all these different side stories that we're developing, except for Rudy. We don't see what's going on with Rudy too much, I don't think, in those flashes. But we do see the Muller twins. We do see Titan. We do see the Martians. I think that's all that I can remember that I thought was like, oh, okay, I really want to see that next season. And then, Mark finishes with the line, I just want to go finish high school. And that's it. Overall, though, I really did enjoy the series, but I feel like it's getting, like, super overhyped. I think it was well written, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to be able to weave, like, these different side stories together. At least the ones that I was more interested in, because once again, like, as I was thinking this out loud, I'm like, oh, well, they did have more than I initially thought, but it still was, like, very adjacent to the story, instead of being something that starts out here, or if you can see on camera, starts out here and then weaves in. It was something that was, like, this close together, at least in my opinion. So, yeah, I do think it's a little bit overhyped, but I feel like it's good that it's being hyped up as much as it is. So that way we'll not only get to see more Invincible, but we'll get to see more possible Image comics. Although I don't know if they have anything outside of Invincible and The Walking Dead that's this popular, or, like, I guess popular enough to get a show. But also just more like independent comics that aren't DC or Marvel. I think that's a really awesome opportunity that Invincible has created for this space. But overall, I think I would give this series a 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. I feel like 8 would be almost a little bit too much. I don't know, because I enjoyed it, but I just need a little something more. But yeah, I definitely recommend it to you guys. Tell me what you guys thought of this season and, like, the different storylines that went on. Like, who's your favorite character? And do you think Omni-Man is right? I'm sure that's a big question. Like, just like Thanos, like, do you think he's right to try and take over in order to, like, help the Earthlings or not? Where do you think Omni-Man went? Unless you read it, don't spoil it. No spoilers for future seasons or anything. Just try and stay in this one. But this was definitely a wild ride, and I'm glad I went on it. So hopefully we'll get another season within a year or so. But until then, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new, so that way you can hear my rants about all these other kind of shows and movies and some video essays, which will hopefully be coming up soon. And I hope you all have a nice evening, morning, or night. Whatever's, enjoy it. See you guys in the next one.